Just so we get this straight, we are not technically where we are going to be when we actually start doing the in-season segments. It's going to look a little more polished once we get going, but this is just kind of as a test run for the both of us.
So we both live in an apartment together in St. Catharines. We both go to school there, but we're originally from a city outside of Toronto. So
we just gotta get out the kinks.
Yeah.
So we'll get to teams that we think didn't go so well in the off season. Mainly 3 of them. I'll let Paul start off here.
There's 2 that sort of got worse, and then 1 that's sort of sitting in a standstill and didn't make the playoffs last year. It's sort of like they should make some moves. That team being the Montreal Canadiens. Actually, I would say they got worse. They lost Surrey, and they signed a guy who's making just as much and more, and is worse. Roman Hammerlick. They lost Samsonov. He didn't really do much, but they lost him. Who else did they lose? Well, they lost Abisher as their backup. I might hurt them. I don't know.
I think Montreal at this point, being a Leafs fan, I could care less but they're treading water. They tried hard to get Briere, but and they actually offered him more money than Philadelphia, but he didn't want to come play in Montreal. And French Canadians make a big deal about it because apparently a lot of French Canadian players don't want to come back and play there now. Just because there's so much pressure. And in a way, I don't blame them.
No, I don't blame them either.
Montreal is just, their power play was so good for them last year, and that's where they got all their goals basically. And the guy who made that power play go is gone. They can't score at even strength. Their best forward mails it in 60 or 70% of the time.
Yeah, their best forward's just like a 60-point scorer at the best.
Yeah, and Koivu is alright, but he's not a number 1 center. Their young players are coming up. They got some good young players coming up, but I mean, they got nothing to bridge the gap right now.
Yeah.
And although Carey Price is going to be amazing in my opinion, who knows if he'll even start. If he has a good camp, he'll probably break the team, get in.
Yeah.
But as of right now, I'd say going into the season, they're probably looking at Huey and Halak as their 1-2, which is all right. I still think Huey is a little overrated personally. Halak had his good games and his bad games last year. More good games than bad. I think he's 25-ish, 26, so he's not like young like Price, but he's still pretty young, so he's got a long ways to go.
Yeah, you think they could probably split the duties between those 2 goalies, and
or maybe go like a 50-30 with Huey and Halak, just because you gotta, especially behind that defense. Although Hammerlick's a defensive upgrade from Surrey, he's definitely not an offensive upgrade, or he's not going to be the same in the locker room as Surrey was, because Surrey was basically their de facto second captain.
Yeah.
And Rivet, letting him go is, I don't quite understand that either.
He's solid.
They basically let go of the backbone of their defense. Although Markov's considered their number 1 defenseman now, he's not like a leader. He's more of like a great player.
Yeah.
Much like Kobele is the Leafs. Kobele is definitely their best defenseman, but he's not like, people don't look to him in the locker room when they're down a goal or something like that.
Yeah, I sort of put the Leafs and the Habs together in the same pool last year, but then this year the Leafs went out and got Blake and they got Toskala and Bell. The Habs, they lost players and they went out and got Brian Smolinski.
Yeah, I think Montreal's in a little bit of trouble next year. I don't even think they have a chance of making the playoffs, to be honest, just because I think the East has gotten better. I mean, Florida has Volkun. It's just one of those things where they've taken too many steps back and the other team have taken quite a few steps forward.
Yeah, for sure. All right, the next team, you want to do?
Well, I think this one's pretty obvious. You're looking at the Buffalo Sabres. They lost their 2 captains. They had, although Biron they let go last year, they had to trade him. Although they got Tebow to be the backup, now you kind of be the mentor of Ryan Miller. That was a good signing, but that's pretty much all they've done.
Yeah.
I mean, they had to retain Vanek because Lowe came in with the old jerk move to try and take him.
I like that.
I like that move too.
But I think Darcy Regier took it way too personally.
No, I think he did too. I just think he had no other choice but to sign him. Which makes you wonder why they didn't try and get Briere or Drury at that money,
Yeah.
who are much more valuable as a team than Vanek was. Although
Yeah.
Vanek's a great player.
Vanek's a great player. He's just not a leader.
No, yeah, exactly. So definitely Buffalo's going to make the playoffs in my opinion. They got good. They got 3 solid lines still. They got good goaltending. Their defense is a little suspect, but they'll still make the playoffs. They're definitely not going to come anywhere close to the point total they had last year. I'm thinking more in the 90s, early 90s, mid 90s point totals.
They're not really. I don't know. They were pegged as sort of the team that fits the mold of the new NHL. The way it sort of went this year, I think they sort of got worse in that respect. Like the Anaheim, you look at Anaheim, they're sort of stacked with these young guys who are really durable and really big, like they can handle the wear and tear. While Buffalo's kind of like they're young, but they're small and they get hit a lot. And
well, what hurt them is Paul Gostad, who's like their big, tough guy.
Yeah.
He was injured last year,
for a lot,
and he kind of did a lot of the dirty work. And without him, they didn't have anyone to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And although Palmville and Roy are pretty feisty, they're not neither one over that big, so
yeah,
it hurts you in that.
and they can stick up for themselves. They can't really stick up for their teammates.
Yeah, exactly.
They're big enough.
So, anyways, and then another obvious pick for teams that definitely are not nearly as good.
The Nashville Predators. They were at times of the season they were first in the league, and they were really they rolled in the second half of the season. But this is a list of the guys they've lost, some really key guys. Paul Correa to St. Louis, he got signed. Thomas Vokoun, who they traded to Florida, sort of as part of the whole fire sale thing. And then, as we mentioned earlier, they lost Hartnell and Timonen to Philadelphia. I think they traded, well, we mentioned it earlier anyways. So yeah, it's like they sort of intentionally made a fire sale on a team that did well in the past, but I don't know. They still have some decent lines. I mean, they have Arnott and Sullivan, and they have Radulov, and they have Martin Erat.
Sullivan was injured a lot of the year last year.
That's true.
So
yeah,
they missed the benefit of that. So if anything, Sullivan kind of replaces Korea in that way.
Mm-hmm. They still have one of the best up and coming defenses.
No, Ryan Parent and Suter and Shea Weber, and they're stacked defensively. I don't think they're gonna miss Timonen that much.
Kevin Klein.
I think Shedlichky's probably gonna have a better year just because he didn't play at all last year because he didn't get any power play time. He'll be the #1 quarterback again this year,
Definitely.
so I think he'll get 50 points. I don't think Mason's as good as everyone's made him out to be. I think he's kind of more of a flash in the pan.
Yeah.
I think that's what's gonna hurt them the most is losing Vokoun.
Yeah.
I still think I think they'll be like Buffalo in that they're gonna drop from 100+ points down to in the early 90s.
Even then, last year, you look at the West.
No, I don't think
the 7th place team had 104 points.
Yeah, I know they might not even get in because Colorado's gotten better. Edmonton is due to get better. You don't know if they will or not. They have a young team, and Los Angeles is going to get better. It's much like the East, where you have Philadelphia, Toronto, and Florida teams that were. Although Philadelphia wasn't knocked on the door last year, but they're definitely going to be there this year.
Yeah.
And Florida and Toronto were both close, and they both got a lot better. And teams that didn't get better, like Carolina and Montreal, even though Montreal didn't make it, probably going to fall back a bit.
And you got to think Washington's going to be a bit better. They're a really young core of guys who, another year of experience, another year wiser. And they got, what's his face, Niklas Backstrom coming up, who's going to make some big noise this year, I think.
Oh yeah, exactly. Playing with Ovechkin helps.